All right, so we'll open up the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee meeting. Welcome, everyone. The first part of tonight's meeting is to gather public feedback. The town participated in a 4-week pilot program as part of the Shared Streets and Spaces program. That program allowed the town the opportunity to pilot a traffic control pattern that brought together portions of some other programs we've been party to, most notably the Complete Streets program and the Safe Routes to School, where we failed to secure a grant that we tried a couple of years ago. And also some historical discussions that Tim Wheeler was able to fill us in on at our opening meeting about some things and some changes that had been proposed throughout the years. So the purpose of our meeting tonight is to gather community feedback. That is actually a requirement of receiving the grant. And so what we're looking for from you, from all those that are in attendance, is just your thoughts. We've actually, I want to thank the people that have already submitted comments in writing. We've received quite a bit, and Margaret has compiled those, both positive, both negative. Some like some parts of the plan, don't like other parts of the plan, don't like it at all, like it all. And that's really what we're here to do, is to gather that. One of the things I want to do, and I know there was some concern with some people I spoke with, that, there is no immediate plan to move forward with anything. This was part of a grant program to allow us to look at the traffic patterns, look at the safety for all other modes of transportation, and see where the town may be able to move forward. Maybe down the road with the whole plan, maybe with a portion of the plan, maybe with none of it. But that would be down the road. There would be public hearings, design. There would be a lot that would go on to that. So I don't want anyone to feel that there's immediate pressure that something is going to happen next week, next year, whatever that may be, next fiscal year. It's not that close that where we're at. This was really an information gathering portion. And fortunately, the town in the end ends up with some of the equipment that will allow us to look at things for other roads or some things in the future as we deal with the traffic that is kind of overrunning our community with development in the whole region. So I guess with that, I would open it up to public comment. And so I guess anyone that has a comment would raise your hand, and then Margaret, maybe we could let people in one at a time to make comments.
Okay. Oh, someone's got a hand up, and yeah, okay. It's Jill, Mollica, and Jill, I am going to. Okay, are you able to talk? Can we hear you?
Hi, how are you?
No, is that Dave?
This is Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing all right. Waiting for the snow to melt.
Well, yeah, thank God. This weekend, maybe go out, we can golf.
There we go. I'll meet you there.
Okay. All right. So I'm participating with this because I just wanted to reaffirm my stance on what I posted on Facebook about the traffic situation that was put in place. With respect, I understand what the town is trying to do. I understand the grant, but I really believe that the situation that has been created because of it has become detrimental to the town. The whole idea of having the streets be one way might make traffic patterns more difficult. As a employee of Berlin Country Club, I go that route every day, and when I go up there, it's fine. But when I'm coming back, when I have to take that left on the Central Street, and I have that corner right to my right, it's very difficult for me to get out. And I can't imagine what it must be like to have a truck or a dump truck or a big truck that's pulling out on the 62. I can't imagine what it must be like for the residents of Woodward Ave to have all these trucks going down their street and have all the cars going down the street. I mean, I live on Pleasant Street. It's a busy road, but Woodward Ave is a quiet road. Great idea. I understand the concept, but I wish that we would, go back to what it was.
Well, thank you, Dave. I just will say it already is back to what it was. That was changed today. It was only a 4-week program. but I thank you for your comments. Margaret, did you have a question?
Oh, I was just going to ask, has the project been taken down?
Yes, yep. Dave and the crew removed everything after
Good.
lunch today.
Could I
Okay,
make one
good.
quick comment before you shut us off?
Yeah, absolutely.
My concern is when the 1870 Town Hall reopens, if we kept it the way it was, all that parking would be gone. And I think you're giving up way more spaces than you gain on Carter Street. And maybe you could designate some at the end of the road near 19 Carter as courtesy parking.
Yeah, that would have, so the way the parking was painted before, we just didn't repaint it, but there's still, we would not have taken any parking spaces away.
Oh, okay.
But thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Okay, we've got another,
All right.
and it is Paul mikelk. And hold on for one moment. All right.
All right, Paul, you can go
Paul, are
ahead
you
and unmute.
there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, the wonders of Zoom.
Oh, yeah, I love Zoom so much. No.
Well, I can't join you in that, so.
Mine's more of a general comment. I want to peel a couple layers back relative to the direction that the town is going with safety and so forth. I had read a posting in the general store that what was done up in the center was to look at improving bicycle and foot traffic safety. Noble causes, no doubt. However, I still like to think of Berlin as somewhat a rural community, and I'm not ready to join the network of natives and towns like that. And I really think any project that we look at should take into consideration the few farmers we have left, the cottage industry construction guys we have. It's not just about bicycles and footpaths. It seems to me we're starting to force that issue, and I'm not sure that that's a direction I think the town should be going in at this point. To look at it, yes, but let us be very cautious about it, because one of the reasons people move to Berlin is because it's country, it's somewhat bucolic, and do we want to make it like every other town? I personally don't think so. That's, a majority of one there, and I appreciate that. But to people listening, I really think we need to pay heed to that and think twice about these different programs that we get into to make Berlin a better, safer place for bicycles and pedestrians. Most of the bicycle traffic I see in this town comes from out of town. So kind of buyer beware. I mean, I used to work in Sudbury, and the things bicyclists did on places like Lincoln Road were just crazy. I would not do that if I was on a bicycle. So those folks have to give a little bit if that's really a safety issue. That's all.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Excuse me, Chief, and Janet Lamy has asked for introductions of the committee. I'm Margaret Nardowitz. I'm the town administrator, non-voting.
Okay. Tom Galvin, I'm the police chief. I am the chair of the committee. I'll go around my screen. Mary, you want to go next?
Sure. Mary Porter, I'm the Finance Committee Liaison, non-voting.
Dave?
David Smith, Highway Superintendent.
Tim?
Tim Wheeler, I'm on the planning board.
And Anna?
Anna Crane, Capital Planning Committee.
And we also have two members that aren't here tonight, which is the fire chief, Ken Clark, and the building commissioner, Richard Hanks. I believe that covers everybody.
That covers them. Okay, more hands. I'm on a roll here, come on. Chief, are you interested at all in going over at least some, like a sampling of the comments that we received? Oh, look at this. I'm seeing a message on my screen, right? Would you like to share some of those or?
Yeah, let's see what other people have to say that are
Okay.
here. And
Okay.
then we'll go through some of the things
Okay.
we have on
We-
our.
We've got a hand, Janet Lamy, and I am going to, oh, hold on, I did it again, sorry. Just 1 second, Janet. Okay. Janet, you're unmuted. Okay, Janet, are you there?
It's actually Jane Sawyer, not Janet Lamy.
Oh, Jane Sawyer.
I'm not computer literate, so I had to come up here.
That's okay.
Jane, I just want to say thank you. We got your letter today.
Yep.
Appreciate that, but
good.
go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to comment some that my only problem with the center of town is the traffic on 62. And I like the signs, the twinkle signs for the pedestrians. But I think the addition of those lighted signs that tell people how fast they're going, so they'll slow down on both ends of town, plus up on Highland Street would be a big help. And the sidewalk from the bank to the store would be good for all that. The rest of it, the one way and stuff, I don't think any of that is necessary. I think instead of a new sidewalk on Woodard Ave, you need to fix the one up in, well, I call it Carterville, from the library up to Highland Street. It's been in disrepair for years, and that is used a lot. So that's my general thought.
Thank you, Jane. And just one comment to that. Those speed signs that you are talking about, that's something Margaret and I have actually talked quite a bit about. It was actually a proposed article for the initial town meeting last year. And then when everything hit and COVID and things were reduced, it was one of the things we pulled off. But that is definitely something that is on our radar, and I appreciate that.
And Chief, if I may, we also tried to get those signs through a different program through MassDOT, the Signs and Lines program. We were unsuccessful, but it's definitely on the radar. Haha, no pun intended.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have any other hands, or Margaret, do you want to read some of the comments that you have from the that you've compiled from what we've received?
Yes, I didn't flag these. We probably have, I'm thinking we have about, I think there's about 30 different comments. So I'm just, the other members, you've received these as well. And if you'd like to read any. So let's see, I'll read one here. Removing parking will take away from what businesses now have. Sidewalks will add issues for plowing the center if not planned out to the T. A bicycle lane is unnecessary. Then there is another, and this shows the diversity of opinions around the community. I would love for this to become a norm in our community. We need sidewalks. Let's see, there's a few other, there are much more targeted comments. Here's another. Since the pilot began, cars do tend to drive faster coming down from Carterville towards 62 on Woodward. The hill down from Highland and the one-way on Woodward has made it a straight shot to the stop sign. Would propose road mitigation to help encourage slower driving, especially in light of the pilot project's mission to become more pedestrian friendly. One way up toward Highland was a great suggestion. Another one is, I see no need for one-way streets in Berlin Center. They are confusing, inconvenient, and unnecessary. There isn't enough traffic or population in Berlin to warrant one-way streets. If anybody has comments in response to these comments, please.
There was one I was looking for too that talked about the common mailbox in the center and taking that into consideration, because it was one of the things that didn't even really come into cross my mind until today, when they were taking it down and someone walked up to the mailbox while I was there talking to Dave, and just how that's set up and how that would be affected by the project, by potential projects.
Let's see, overall, I think that I kind of there were a few comments that said that the pedestrian beacons aren't really that effective. It still requires pedestrians to wait at least 10 cars during rush hour to be able to cross 62. But overall, I think from the comments that we received, people like the addition of the pedestrian flashing beacons based on the comments we got. This one is the flashing pedestrian crosswalk signs are great. The proposed sidewalk from the store to the bank is great. See, make sure I give a diversity.
We
of
did get a
comments.
comment, I know, what, to kind of piggyback what Paul said, from a non-resident cyclist, that says they avoid
Yes.
downtown because of the traffic. And
With
they'd
hands.
like to see more improvements like this, that would, and that would allow them to stop into some of the local businesses.
Chief, we've got some hands. Would you like to?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Thomas Andrew is here.
Hello.
Hey, Tom.
Hello.
How are you?
Good,
Nice
how are
to
you?
see you guys. I'm fine. I'm actually attending this as a representative of First Parish Church. I'm the moderator of First Parish Church. We discussed this at council last month, and we will submit a written comment before December 18th, but I thought I'd like to hear this meeting before we did that. I think really two messages from the First Parish Church. One is that we support the idea of inclusive streets and promoting pedestrian and bicycle access. The second is that the one really hard and fast concern we have is with respect to the effect on parking. And I think that we would share that with, for instance, the 1870 town hall and so on. You know, the and accessible parking is, I think, really important in that area, because as much as we'd like to encourage bicyclists and pedestrians, we have to recognize that there are 3 cultural institutions right there in the center of town. And, you know, we are in a place where we have to depend on vehicular access to those things. And so, you know, as it goes forward, it would be, you know, our really strong concern to see that parking is addressed. And again, accessible parking. You know, we know some people are challenged and don't have cars that park themselves with parallel parking. So, you know, we really think, you know, you need to look at the fact that it's also a landing spot for people who are attending, you know, in a normal world, which we will be returning to, events in the center of town, and sometimes events in the center of town that by design or coincidence are happening at once. So you can have 2 or even 3 events sometimes happening. So I think it's really important to address that issue in the context. And if I may, just as a personal thing, one of the things that concerns me and is that it's great to have bicycle lanes, you know, in one block in the center of town, but how do you get people there? You know, what are the connectors? If they get splatted on Route 62 before they get there, they're never going to enjoy this. And so I'm a firm believer of sort of build it and they will come. And, you know, if we have an opportunity to do this piece of it, but I would urge people to think about, you know, the future and how we connect with this with other things to make it really meaningful.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, one of the things that we actually talked about in the planning phase is this with parking, but that's one thing that the grant didn't allow us to address. So it was definitely a consideration of ours as we talked about things. And then as in terms of bike lanes also, that is a great point. And that is one thing that the entire Complete Streets program seeks to address, and addressing linking different areas of town and making them more accessible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Dave and Jill, if you'd allow me, I'm just going to promote a couple of new speakers first, and I will get to you. Oh, hold on for one moment.
Okay,
Oh, is this Dave?
this is Dave.
Okay, Dave, you're there. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So one point that my wife Jill had was with the pedestrian cross signs, which I think is a great idea, is they're always flashing, but maybe what we should do is we should have a button on them. So when a pedestrian does want to cross, you push the button, the sign goes off, and then hopefully people will abide by it. I know, from going to work in the morning, I parked on the other side, I've tried to cross. Some people let me out, some people don't, but it is what it is. But, I think that's a good idea by her to, push the
I
button.
don't disagree. Actually, that's something Margaret and I talked about earlier today. And when we got these signs as part of the grant, one of the problem was the setup of the downtown area already, and the ability to have the posts where we could mount those signs and make it work without really doing some infrastructure work. But that is definitely a consideration, because what will happen over time is people will become desensitized to them, and that's not what we want.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess, Eric?
Yeah, thanks. Beck and I did submit 5 or 16 page. We threw a lot of comments at you.
Well, and that's where I saw the mailbox thing, and that wasn't
Yeah.
even something that came to mind, so thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to augment a couple of points on there that kind of popped into my head as I was listening to other folks. There has been a noticeable new use of the First Parish Church driveway as a turnaround in both directions, because people are now confused by those streets being one way. So I think the FPC driveway has probably 200 or 300x the amount of traffic that it has in the past. And those folks are going at road speed instead of driveway speed. And there have been 2 incidents where I was walking there and someone drove through full speed, 20 miles an hour. And so that's a little unnerving. I also wanted to note, based on both anecdotal and also some empirical evidence, it seems the average speed in front of our house has actually increased a fair amount, particularly people coming off of Woodard Ave. They realize now that they've got either less time or more time, depending on what's going on. In either case, they're not really looking at where they're going. They're just pulling directly onto 62. And they're doing so at speed around 25, 30 miles an hour. I think that might partially be driven by the fact that Carter is now one way. So there's not traffic entering from Carter slowing traffic down in that direction. So the average speed definitely has gone up. Coinciding with that, horn noise has also increased significantly in the center of town. Large trucks that are getting irritated with people not knowing where they're going are blaring their very large and loud air horns. And there's also lots of meeps of, people just generally. I think there's a lot of frustration that surrounds this, both from people who are used to the original traffic patterns and people who are confused by one-way streets in a small area. And lastly, I did want to reinforce the pedestrian signs being always on makes them invisible. They're also not particularly noticeable. They just kind of wink at you. They're not grabbing a lot of attention. And Beck and I and Johan crossing the street counted 10 cars on more than one occasion before we were able to cross. So I don't know that those are terribly effective, though the spirit I think is good. And in general, I think the spirit of this effort is good to increase pedestrian accessibility. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Eric. And I hope the horn sound gets better after today, now that it's been removed for you.
Okay, and Evelyn Dueck, Evie Dueck, I'm gonna.
All right. Hey, Evie, go ahead.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you guys for being on the committee and for thinking about this. I think it's a great thing to bring in front of the town. Obviously, I'm speaking from 19 Carter's perspective, but also I live on Highland Street and there's a big development that is being put in behind my house, which I think is 60 houses, which is probably about 100 or 120 cars that are going to be coming in front of my house right down into the center of town. So I would like to support the idea to try to mitigate the traffic speed. And as I'm listening to everybody's comments and also from what I've heard from other people, I feel that there's so many creative solutions that perhaps we haven't all considered that I have some of them, but I don't necessarily want to say them now, but one-way streets is definitely a good idea, but it has some challenges as people have pointed out. I'd like to say that my goal for doing something in the center of town would be traffic mitigation, speed mitigation, pedestrian safety, and as people have already said, parking. And to me, it's not so much increased parking as it is clear parking. So even if we only had what we have now, if it could just be marked, and Dave is going to smile at me because I'm always telling him, could we please mark the parking? So whatever it is we decide, I like that to throw that in. It should just be marked, whatever it is. And then the final point, I have had a nice conversation with someone today that was really concerned about the look of the center of town. And I, of course, agree with that. We love the way the center of town looks in its historic way. We don't want to take that away. So I would want to just put that on the table, that we don't ruin the look of it, but we do need to address some of the challenges.
Thank you. Yeah, it was one of the discussions Dave and I had today. It was about traffic calming, and I think what the term Dave used was putting the road on a diet. And
traffic calming. That's good. Yeah, that's the
traffic calming things.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
And then just one final thing, which is obvious to everyone, I think, and that is, it would be so lovely if we could all sit in person and talk about it, because I know there are people that aren't computer happy. And, you know, they're very important people. We're all important, of course, but, you know, certain people that are not so comfortable providing input either by writing or this way, if we could sit with them and talk, I think it'd be important to include them as well.
Absolutely. Hopefully we'll get through this COVID period and be able to have in-person public meetings again, because it's very difficult to have a conversation in the forums we're in now. It's much easier when we're, you know, in person.
Right.
Thank you.
So good thing we don't have any money, so that's no problem.
Chief, I have one little thing to add to that. That was actually a good segue. While we can't get together and talk, we could certainly talk on the phone, but we are going to continue accepting comments until December 18th. So folks should feel free to continue to send in their comments. We do have a final grant report that's due by or before December 30th. So we want to be sure that we have all the comments compiled so that we can provide those to the state. So folks are welcome to continue submitting comments. Okay, Paul McKelk has his hand up. Okay, Paul?
No, it's actually Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Mary.
Hello. My only comment really is I've noticed since the restructuring of the traffic pattern is the offshoots going from Highland down to Carter Street by our house has increased substantially. And one of the things that people use that Carter Street entrance onto 62 is like, they don't even look to their right or to the front. They're only looking over their left shoulder. So when you're trying to pull out of your driveway, or tenants are trying to pull out of their driveway, it can be an interesting little obstacle course, shall we say. So that's just a concern. And also just that extension of Carter Street, I'm sure Dave is very aware, it could potentially use some repaving. So just that amount of traffic, that's just one of the concerns of what has happened because of the deviation of traffic patterns. Just want to raise that as a reality.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, anybody else?
Is there anyone from the committee that had any comments? I know, we do have some of the area residents, that live in Highland and Carterville, and maybe, I didn't know if you had any comments. Mary?
Yep, thank you, Chief Galvin. I do, and my sympathy goes out to you, Mary McKelk, and Eric and Rebecca about the increase in traffic you're seeing. I've been seeing it. Anna's nodding her head. I know Anna sees it. I know Evie sees it. We've seen an increase on Highland Street. And I would say over the last 10 years and really intensely over the last 4 or 5 years, and I call it GPS traffic. And it comes at speeds beyond the posted limits. And prior to this test that we ran in town on the center there, the Carter Woodward one way, all of that traffic was coming down the hill and heading out to the end of Carter Street at the general store. And because of the one-way diversion, people sort of got trained to either go out the Carter Street extension by McKelk's and St. Joe's, or they went out Woodward. And so you're seeing what we've been seeing for a long time in terms of traffic. And then when you add on the potential additional resident traffic, I mean, the number of units on the plan right now for the Highland development there is in excess of 60, which, just measuring kind of rule of thumb is about double what the center of town now is in terms of residences as you come down Highland and Carter, Woodward, and so on. So we got a serious issue here. And also for the residents of Pleasant Street, I know that you've been facing GPS traffic as well. And a lot of this points towards doing some management along 62, but there's a further problem in the way that Highland Street connects to Bolton and parallels Route 495. And I think that's the same problem with Pleasant Street. It's the using the town of Berlin as a cut through to avoid the intersection of 290 and 495. So we have an issue at state level as well as local level. And I support some one-way change at the center of town because I think it will calm traffic. But I also support a broader plan for change in cooperation with state and complete streets to do something with 62 and make it less attractive to cut through traffic. So a lot of words. I'll be quiet then. But thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
The chair. My comment here is in response to Mary. I think that was very well put. We have another hand up. We have an opportunity here to work with transportation planners at CMRPC and through them, MassDOT. This is really, really good feedback to try to start getting a conversation going with MassDOT. I mean, 62 is a state numbered road. Anything we do, with regard to traffic lights and things like that would have to go through MassDOT for approvals. So I think this might actually be an opportunity to start having a conversation. Tim, Tim's on the board at CMRPC, but this might be a good opportunity to start a conversation with CMRPC about how we move in that direction with talking to MassDOT.
Yeah, that is one of the things that's come up at some of the planning board meetings, some of our meetings, is we mentioned the TIP, which is the state's traffic improvement plan, our transportation improvement plan. And that opens up quite a bit of funding to municipalities, but it's a greater picture that we can look at to start to find ways. I think going back to what Paul McKelk said in the beginning, maintaining some of what we have and what we still have and what we want to maintain the character of Berlin, but also, and improving traffic as it goes through town. So that, we look at Route 62, we work with the state with Route 62, so we don't have a lot of control over that. However, we have all of our other streets, and if we can maybe keep some of the traffic off of those streets by making traffic flow better in other areas, it can do better in improving the town and in maintaining that town's, rural character, which I think is very, very important to the town's identity long term. Is there anyone else on the committee? I think Paul has his hand raised again. So Paul, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. One last, well, I won't say last. I know better. I think one of the fundamental problems relative to the center, it doesn't have to do with one way this way, one way that way. It has to do with speed coming down Highland Street. And to Mary Porter's point about another 100 additional vehicles, I think that has to be some kind of first step. Whether they take a right on Carter Street and come past my house, or they go into the center, doesn't make any difference. I've logged a few hours in front of 19 Carter Street, and I see the traffic and how people drive. And I don't think there are a lot of Berlin residents that come down that road so far. That will change certainly with Highland, with the development. But without mitigating the speed issue at the bottom of Highland Street, we're not going to be much better off. I mean, that's step one. And that might cause people to rethink what they're doing, how many trips they make, whether they really have to go to point B, or can they wait tomorrow and combine that with 2 other stops. I mean, you got to take a step back and look at this and slow them down. And sorry, Tom.
No, don't
That
apologize.
one heads to you.
Yeah. No, and that was even part of the discussion that Dave and I were having today. So don't need to apologize.
I want to make that out there and put it on the public view.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, and we have Ned Hogan.
Go ahead.
Yep. Thank you very much. I had to get off mute and everything. Many of you might have seen me biking around town quite a bit, whether it's 6 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock this afternoon, but I try to avoid 62 as much as possible. About as far as I'll go on 62 is from Linden Street to Carter Street on it. And when I do ride, I ride with the traffic. Just to go with it, and crossing over to go up Highland Street, I kind of go, I ride the bicycle like I drive a car. Now granted, an 8-year-old or 15-year-old child might not be doing that, but if you just take a little common sense and do that, the parking spaces along the eastbound side there makes a nice bike lane to use, then to cross over. If I have to stop in front of Lowe's to cross over, I use a crosswalk to do that. To be able to push a button and cross the street so cars stop would be nice. I also take into account the sun, whether it's in the driver's eyes as I'm crossing the street there as well. But I do enjoy I take the long way around so that I'm not doing the busy streets, and it adds bike miles to my day, which is more enjoyable. Going up Walnut Street is beautiful on that, and doing those type of rides. So that crosswalks around town. I grew up with crosswalks. I always walked in the street anyhow. So, but I think slowing the traffic down through the center of town would be a nice thing because it is, Mary, as you were saying, a GPS cut through for a lot of people. Maybe a stop sign for people coming down Highland near the library would be nice to slow the traffic down. I was just kind of thinking off the top of my head, but just doing it a one-way, so people going up Carter Street up to Highland, maybe they don't have to stop because it's a shorter distance. But when you're talking also about a GPS, cut through, if you look off 495 on a Sunday in the summer, you'll see a lot of out-of-state plates cutting through, going up Sawyer Hill Road, cutting down, New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, you just start seeing them too. We had Cabela's change their commercial to say Berlin as opposed to Berlin and everything. I think we could probably petition GPSs or however you do it to cut Berlin off the radar on certain periods of time to do that, especially when there's traffic issues. You know, I love the rural town. I love telling people from that aren't around here. I'm proud to say you take 2 shopping malls out of the town and we have maybe 1 traffic light and 3 stop signs in town, and make them all jealous. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do. When the weekend traffic that you see at, when 290, 495 gets backed up is disheartening at times. And I know the state is doing some work, and I know that, I don't know if it's because of COVID that they're delayed at rebuilding the rest of that interchange at 290. But there is some work to come there to improve that ramp that hopefully will take some of that burden off of our roads.
Okay, Erik von Geldern has his hand up. Erik?
Thanks. Real quick comment, just in quick response to Mary. Yes, traffic is indeed a shell game. As one voice from the center of town, we definitely recognize that, any changes that are made are just going to shift the water level to a different location.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate that. I think all of the folks in the center of town appreciate that. So I think the spirit of what we're looking for is really just safety. And I think slowing down the traffic is quite, a number of folks have said it. I think we really need to focus on slowing that traffic down. We see close calls every day. Thank you.
Thank you. And Christinekeefe has her, Tim Wheeler. Chris, if you could just hold on for one moment. Tim?
Tim?
Share.
Well, I think this has been a great process. The comments are pretty comprehensive that you've gotten, and the participation tonight is makes me feel pretty good. I've been on a lot of planning board hearings over the last 40 years, and I don't remember this much participation in any planning board hearing.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it's Zoom, but it's still, to me, it's working. It's public participation in the process. I think probably we get Central Mass to do some traffic count prior to the development being completed on Highland. That'll probably be something that we could get done in the spring. The Complete Streets program that we started to get involved with 3 years ago, we worked with Central Mass quite a bit, and we developed a prioritization plan that included probably a 15 to 20 year look forward about different things that might be able to be done in particularly in this, but also it had to do with the 5 corners and access on Pleasant Street down to Northbrook Village for pedestrians and stuff like that. So this particular project is one piece to inform us about some of the impacts that some of the things that we had talked about in that prioritization plan included. So I think the unfortunate part piece is that it doesn't necessarily show the linkages to some of the broader forward-looking things that we were talking about. So
Oops, Tim, you froze there for a sec.
I did freeze?
Yeah, if you could just repeat that.
I think that plan is online.
And
if it's not, we'll make sure it is. But I think it'd be beneficial for folks to look at that if they get a chance and continue this conversation, because I mean, this was an experiment to see what impacts would be. As the chief pointed out, there's nothing in the works right now in terms of implementing a lot of this. The goal was to get dialogue, but if people look at that plan, I think that'll help them flesh out some of the thoughts that are behind some of these particular ideas here for the center. And then the other project that we're working on is a Center Village study. Again, we're doing that with Central Mass with some grant money. And there'll be some public forums for that process that I hope we get as much participation in later in the spring. And again, that tries to look at uses in the center, the implications of a cultural corridor from 62 from Hudson to Clinton, things like that. So, you know, this is sort of a bigger picture that I'm really pleased to see people participating. That's all I have now. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Chris Keefe has her. Okay, Chris.
Hi there.
Hey, Chris.
Hi.
Kind of funny to be on the other end of this. I just wanted to let you know that I had a phone call from a resident this afternoon. And I haven't heard you talk maybe about one of those solar speed signs that says like, thank you when you are going under the speed limit.
Oh.
And perhaps have it placed at the top of Carterville when you're coming down from Bolton.
Okay, yeah, that was kind of the signs that Jane was talking about and alluded to in the beginning. We had been looking at some of those and are still looking and very interested at trying to get some for several areas of the town. But that would be a good area as you come down that hill on Highland and start to enter Carterville.
Right, and just wanted to make sure that the points that because this resident told me he's not very Zoom savvy and wouldn't probably be participating. And also that definitely the sidewalks up especially in the Carterville area need to be repaired. Maybe not as much as we need more sidewalks. We need to repair the ones we have first.
Okay, thank you. And just to kind of to add on to what Chris just said, that, you know, if any of you in the audience talk to a friend, a neighbor, another resident that says they weren't Zoom savvy, they weren't able to participate, whether they want to email or call us on the phone, they can still give us comments in other forums like that. They don't, you know, they didn't have to participate tonight. You know, it would definitely not be a problem for them to reach out and call any one of us or to send us an email, and those comments would be included as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure everybody understood that it was, you know, that we had till at least the 18th.
Okay. We posted that on the notices. I think that it was posted in the item too, but we tried to get the word out. But it's on our website as well. For those of you who have other social media sites, feel free to put that out there. The comments are being welcomed until December 18th. So, and we will continue to compile those.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. I just through the chair. Oh, we've got 3 hands up. I just wanted to add that those radar signs, and Chief, I know you're aware of this, but Chris was referring to one that says thank you when people are driving slow. They have ones that, you know, have a smiley face if you're driving within the speed limit, or a frowny face if you're not, you know, so there are a lot of different options, but importantly, the signs, a lot of these signs are movable. They can be moved from one street to another. So if you're having a problem in a neighborhood, the signs can be moved there. And it does sound like, you know, I'm hearing from this conversation, some community support for those types of signs. So that's good. I'm going to, let's see, Walter Mutti. Walter, can you unmute yourself?
Unmute, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah, hi. Hey, thank you for all that you guys are doing. Really appreciate it. And I love the input that folks are giving. Some of this is repetitious. The sidewalk down Carter Street are horrendous. And I have 4 grandchildren and 2 sons living on the street also, one on Highland, one on Carter, myself and wife. So I'm representing 3 families anyway. We walk on the street a lot, and to us, it's, you know, the sidewalks really need attention. That would make even riding the bikes and walking a little bit more safer there. That's one thing. That was already talked about. Another thing was already talked about, the smiley signs. As you're going into Lancaster, there's one on the right, and I think it's a cool sign. It's a positive reinforcement sign rather than a blinking blue light that, you know, scares you and everything else. It's more of a, hey, dude, you're really going over the speed limit here, and it kind of. And so I really think those signs are good. I don't know if any of you, if this is kind of comical, I don't know if any of you have faced this yet, but being right on the corner of Carter and Highland, my house, I've had tractor trailers stop out front. I've had cars stop out front. They're looking for Highland Commons. I don't know how many of you have seen that, but I went out and talked to a lady yesterday, and she says, "Where's all the stores?" Like, so, I don't know who came up with the name of Highland Commons up there, but maybe they should have looked in the town streets first. There's nothing you can do about that. I just think it's kind of comical in a way. But the tractor trailers are having a difficult time trying to make that corner.
Well, Walter, we actually had a delivery there when they were building it. They left some specialized wallpaper stuck in like a snowbank in somebody's yard. That was
And as far as the one way, I don't know. We didn't see anything beneficial in that. To me, it was a little bit of aggravation. It didn't really seem to do anything for us anyway. And I am speaking for 3 families. Maybe it will be good if you had a little bit more, parking. If it was one way, there'd be more space for bike riding, like one gentleman said, and parking. But in general, I didn't really think it was that great. Anyway, that's my 3 cents, 3 families. So that's it. Thanks, guys. Thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you. Okay, Barry Yeager.
Yes.
Hi, Barry.
I'm very frustrated about parking in the center of the village. And I think that I'm really concerned if we take a lot of space to add other lanes and things there, that we're going to lose parking. The meeting house and the town hall both hold large groups of people, 150, 200 people. And if we have even one event in one of those places, we basically use all the parking in the center of the village. And if we have an event in 2 of those places, that just compounds it. And with the addition of 19 Carter, which also has significant size gatherings, we have 3 different venues that use a large amount of parking if they have a good crowd. And I think that we cannot afford to lose any parking. And somehow, if we add additional lanes and even more sidewalks and things, I'm afraid we're going to lose parking. I would also say that this as a test period is not satisfactory for dealing with that, because we don't have any of those gatherings going on right now due to COVID. And the meeting house hasn't had a meeting in it since March, and the town hall has had only some very small events, and 19 Carter the same, and most of them outside. So therefore, the whole issue of parking and for those venues is not being vetted adequately with what we've done with this study. Personally, I think Carter Street is better to handle the 2-way traffic, the major traffic, and Wooded Avenue is not very good for that traffic, especially if we maintain the kind of parking we've had on it in the past. If I was going to make anything one way, I'd make Wooded Avenue one way northbound and leave the other one alone. But the other thing I'd say is that from my point of view, priority-wise, I'd really rather see us deal with sidewalks on Central Street and sidewalks on going out West Street, so that people have the ability to walk beyond the village. In the village, we've got some sidewalks, but walking beyond the village, it's really not at all safe for anybody to walk on 62, much of any of its length in the town of Berlin. And I think that it would be highly desirable for us to develop sidewalks for 62 and perhaps down Pleasant as streets that have a lot of traffic. And we may well find that when we get the new development open on Highland, that we'd want to sidewalk from there down into the village too. To me, the development of sidewalks on high traffic streets would be a much greater priority than messing with one way in the village. I think that summarizes enough to say for now.
Thank you, Barry.
Okay, Peter Hoffman. Hi, Peter, just unmute. Well, all right, let me, I don't know if he's at his computer at the moment. We'll get 1 second.
Okay, sorry about that. My finger was too cold to work on the mute button. So we just came back from a Gates Pond walk. Sorry about that, everyone. Thanks for calling on me. So, Tom, I'm wondering what you learned from the traffic study. We've heard all the public comments. I'd like to hear what the pro has to say. What did you pick up from all this?
It's all right. You know, I didn't drive it a lot. And that's why we're reaching out to you, because it's beyond just me. You know, there were a couple of the things that I echo, and I think I've kind of provided this on the crosswalk lights. I think buttons would be better. And I think one of the things that Barry just brought up is maybe Woodward Ave as a one-way would be a good idea, with Carter Street remaining two ways. I think that would eliminate some of that flow and some of the issues that Erik brought up about the way people pull out onto Route 62, and then keep the majority of the traffic onto Carter Street, which it kind of had been before. But one of my concerns is, as configured right now, Woodward Ave is really not wide enough for the parking, the angle parking, the way it's set up, and to have 2 lanes of traffic. To me, that is a concern. Granted, the parking isn't always filled up, but on those days that it is, it becomes a concern when there's 2-way traffic on Woodward Ave. You know, in terms of what it did overall for the town center and the overall, I think there was some parking concerns that it created for larger vehicles at the general store, for some of the contractors that come in and try and you know, patronize our businesses downtown. So I think some of it worked. I think some of it didn't. And I think that's really what we got to look at. I do like I said, Barry's idea of the single one-way with Woodward Ave. And what a lot of this is going to come down and play into, especially where the parking has been a big discussion and brought up by a few people, is that we weren't allowed to study that with this. And we had talked about parking and changing parking and adding parking. But what Tim had mentioned earlier, and what's going to kind of be coming down the road, is kind of that village study, and what CMRPC is doing to look at that cultural center with Berlin and Route 62 as a cultural corridor, and how that's developed and how this is going to kind of tie into that. Because we do have to consider that we could have not only the 19 Carter, the meeting house, and the 1870 town hall. There could be something going on at the library. Someone may have a gathering at their home, and this could all be going on at the same time, and we do not have the parking to meet those needs. You know, yet we have to be very considerate to not turn the center of town into a concrete jungle. So I think there's a lot that has come out of this, and some good, some that wasn't so good in the way the traffic patterns flowed. And I think there's a lot that we can kind of take away as we move forward and look at other projects.
Tom.
And Paul mikelk or Mary mikelk?
It's Paul. Not what I was originally going to say, but in terms of the one-way possibility on Woodward, would that also open up the possibility of diagonal parking on both sides of the street? That's just a rhetorical question, something for people to think about. I'm not looking for an answer right now. But relative to some things Tim said, it seems to me that one of the issues this town is facing is we're looking at things somewhat piecemeal, at least from what I can garner from knowledge. There are these things going on with Central Mass regional planning. We got the center thing, the sidewalk thing. Is there a site, a document? Is somebody putting together kind of a master plan of what direction we're going? Because I think it's a fallacy to deal with things one issue at a time without tying them together. I think you're doing the public a disservice if we go in that direction. And I'd like to see something a little bit more cohesive that tells the town what we're looking at, and there's some kind of tether between projects so that we can make sense of it for a better future.
Tim, is that something you wanna touch on the master plan? Because that falls to the planning board.
So you're right, Paul, and I think that was one of the things I tried to suggest is that as people participate in this particular phase, it might appear as though this is sort of a standalone, isolated project, but going to result in an immediate change of anything. It's really to sort of build data and information, give us some ideas, but it fits into this larger complete streets program that we've been involved in now for a couple of years. And I would suggest that you look at that because it really rolls out a multi-year prioritization of different improvements that could be implemented in regard, particularly to pedestrian access, because it talks about sidewalks going down to Northbrook Village and trying to get up in through Carterville. And one of the things the planning board has talked about is, as that new project is developed on Highland, how is that accessed for pedestrian use and stuff like that. So, and then this Center Village study, again, and there'll be an opportunity for people to participate in that through forums similar to this. Those are all aimed at trying to build on top of each other. Implement, we really want to gather data, get input from the public, get the help of Central Mass Regional Planning and the traffic people and the physical development people and on their staff, get them to participate in some of the forums that we do here. More comprehensive before we move.
Tim, you're freezing up a little bit again.
You don't want to be in a situation where it's got to be a comprehensive approach, and that's really what the planning board, working with these other committees and these other prizes in Central Mass.
Tim, you froze a few times on that, but Paul, did that, I think, kind of got the gist of everything. I know you froze about the last 30 seconds or so. But Paul, did that kind of answer your questions?
Am I on?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
So do I understand from that the really only source of information for the general public is to go to the Complete Streets site?
This Complete Street, does it tie into the town's overall master plan as well, Tim?
I'm looking for a broadcast of what's going on, and not everybody in this town, and there are some concerned citizens aren't technologically available. And if I'm just trying to clarify for myself, is that the only avenue available to us currently? And if that is so, fine. Is there anything in the offing that will change that?
So are you saying that you want materials to be made available, for instance, in the library? People could go there and read?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that the public needs to be well informed of this. And if the only access right now is on the website Complete Streets, I think that's kind of limited. Don't you?
Well, if you go to the town's website and you go to, for instance, you're going to find some of the studies that have been done as part of the master plan over the last decade. There's the open space plan, the housing production plan. Those are in two of the main ingredients for the master plan, and those have been available for a long time, but primarily online. We usually send copies of those to the library as well, and I'll make sure that they've still got those on hand.
And can you make that information available to Berlin Neighbors Connect and so forth so that people know where this is available? I guess that's my point, is that I'm on a town board and maybe I should be better informed than I am, and maybe that's my fault, I'll own that. But it seems to me that this needs to be opened up a bit more to the public so that they know where to get this information.
Yeah, I know that from the planning board's point of view, Carolyn is on the board now, and she's been working with the Berlin Neighbors Connect in terms of trying to get messages out about meetings and hearings and stuff like that. So, you know, we'll double our effort on that.
Thank you.
But there could also be just even the basic community, sorry, this is Mary, but also the Powder House News, because that is where a lot of our seniors get their information. So if they know they can get it through the library, because they're not tech savvy. So it's just how do we get disseminate the information to the people who really are interested, want to know what's going on, and make it accessible to them.
We don't need to come across as elitist in any fashion.
That's through the chair.
Yes.
Those are such great questions, and the answers we have been struggling with.
Understood.
In the age of social media, there is no longer one path. There's no longer one communication path. There are many communication paths. And it is, it is incumbent upon us to try to find the most effective communication methods to get the word out. We struggled with shared streets. We've struggled with other things. Reining it all in can be extremely challenging. So the idea, putting things on in hard copy and putting things online is really important, because we have a population that is mixed. Some people might be perfectly tech savvy and go online to get all their information. Others may not at all. So this is something that we do need to tackle.
And I just want to add, managing the food pantry these days and dealing with those clients, they're not plugged into our community in a way that we think they are through Neighbors Connect, etc. So we have a lot of new people moving into town that are just trying to navigate their way through. So I just want to hold that out. So the more ways we can figure out a way to connect with people, the better. So thank you, Margaret.
Oh, you're welcome. It's something we need to work on. Thank you. Okay, we've got Tom Andrew. Okay.
Yes, I hadn't thought I would speak again this evening, but this is an issue that I actually encountered signing into this meeting. I went onto the town website and I expected to, with a couple of reasonable searches, reach a link to join with this meeting. I tried Facebook, and when I tried Facebook, which may have been more effective, I was required to sign in. I have deep political and personal issues with Facebook, and I don't think we should be relying on that as public accessible notice of what is going on. And I think one of the things you really need to do is, if you're having a meeting like this, I clicked up meetings for tonight. It didn't appear. I had to do a search for this meeting, and then I got the link in. I won't tell you how many expletives were involved in signing into this meeting. And I won't recite them either because it's a public meeting. But I think what the previous speaker said is really important. And, you know, I've had some experience in public life, and I'm not just like dumping a problem in your life. And if you'd like to talk to me about this, and if I could be of any help, I'd be pleased to. But I think it's a huge issue. I'm like, you know, here I am. I'm a public official. I operate, you know, I do online research and all of this, and it took me 7 minutes to sign into this meeting. What the hell does that mean in terms of people who are less enabled in that respect?
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, it's I think there's some things that we can do to streamline some things, because we do have two websites, one that has postings on it and one that's our town website, and we can move all the postings to, I think, the town website. That's something we'd have to work with Eloise on, and we've discussed, and we have some training actually coming up.
Yes, we do. We, as well as our, through the chair, as well as our web presence, you know, the town's web presence, to make it easier. Okay.
And again, I'm not dumping that on your lap. If anybody would like.
What happened?
Oh.
Tom?
Oh, sorry. What I was going to say is I don't mean to just like dump a bunch of stuff, negative stuff on your lap. If you would like to talk to me, I'm very happy to talk to you, and I'm very happy to be a guinea pig on some of those things. But because I think it's a hugely important issue.
No, these are all helpful. These are all helpful comments, in my opinion. All right, so we've got Barry. Barry?
On the same subject about people's access to things, people that do not function electronically really are really up against it now, because so much that we're doing publicly is electronic. And I think that we need to think about the fact that all of our public buildings are closed, and they've been closed for months. And I think that when people arrive at one of those public buildings, maybe we need a kiosk that makes clear how you can access a lot of things, or that has copies of the information about a meeting like this, or about a plan of something that's happening, so that if somebody comes to the entrance of the town offices, they could find something on the subject that they could take home. And you talk about putting it in the library. Well, the library was locked up for months. You couldn't get in there. I don't know whether you can get in there now, but last I knew, you were still supposed to call ahead and they'd bring books out to you or something. And I don't mean they're not trying to serve the public. I just mean the method that usually used to work with that isn't there. And a place like, 19 Carter, that a lot of people would go and might pick something up if there's copies of it available. It's not really happening the same way it usually does. So I would, and the store, I mean, you used to be able to put things in the store. The number of people of the public that are going in there isn't nearly as broad as it used to be. I don't mean to say that nobody does, but those kinds of outlets, we need to figure out how to make them work with the public buildings closed, so people can't come in and just look for something they want to find. Enough said.
Yeah, one thing I want to do, I think that there's a lot of important comments about this and how we get information out. And one thing I want to point out is this Thursday, we have another coffee talk with the selectmen, right? It's on Thursday night. I think this might be something that we should talk about and have a broader discussion about with the select board, and how we notify and maybe some things. And I'm hearing maybe some other options here at the building, and hopefully once we get, again, post-COVID, it makes it a little bit easier. But the challenges we know we're going to experience for at least several more months, to make sure information is getting to the public. But I do just want to ask the people that are in the audience and the attendees, do we have more comments specific to comments on the grant, so we can make sure that we compile all the data that we need for that?
I think Janet has a comment on the project. Hold on for one. Okay, Janet, or
Hi, can you hear me?
Jane.
Yeah.
Is it Janet or
No,
Jane?
It's Janet. It's Janet. One, I was curious if you would be sharing any of the comments that people shared with you for the shared street and spaces pilot, if you could put that somewhere on the web that we just had a lovely conversation about. I will say that I do not hold a social media account. I gave it up 2 years ago for Lent, and it was the best thing I gave up. And
Here.
So I have been totally relying on my town government, and I can type in my town government now in Berlin. The Berlin page just pops up for me because I've searched it so much. And I actually had some people ask me how they could get on the link tonight, and I was able to go in there, copy the link, and send that off as a text to a couple people. But I don't think the My Town Government is really, unless you're a town official or a volunteer, I don't think a lot of people access it. And I'm laughing at Tom's comment because I'm shocked that he didn't just type in My Town Government. I mean, that he should know more than anybody as a selectman. And I'm not slamming Tom. I was so shocked. I thought, wow, I have to share My Town Government tonight because it is so easy, and it has all the meetings, all the Zoom links right there for you with 1 or 2 clicks. So that might be something people want to bookmark, My Town Government, and you just have to pull it up. And if you're interested in what's going on in other towns, you can look at that as well. So, and am I correct in saying, I put it in the chat, did we not start this process when Berlin Memorial was being built on South Commons? Because we had a lot of parents wanting to be able to have their children from the center walk safely to the South Commons. And I believe that sidewalk got put in specifically for safe routes to school, if I'm not correct. And maybe Barry can comment on that, or somebody that was here. But I really think this has been on the town radar for quite some time, and maybe people just didn't realize it. And the website that Tom's referring to for information is a wealth of information with all sorts of grants and funding. So I suggest you all look it out. We in Maynard are very involved in the shared streets and spaces and have gotten many grants for that. And it's really a great website. So check it out.
That is MassDOT. That's through MassDOT. So they, you just have to go onto the web, go to MassDOT, and they do post all of their grant programs up there. And they do have some good ones. It looks to me, someone else I'm sure would be better able to answer this. Looks to me like the Complete Streets prioritization plan was done in about 2016. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, right when it was started.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was done as a result of Berlin Memorial School or just kind of around the same time. You're on mute, Tim.
Looks like we got Tim's frozen too.
Tim, there we go.
Now you're good.
So when the Baker administration came online, they encouraged communities to get involved in programs that would enhance with state government. And one of the things that we signed on for as part of our community compact, Complete Streets, and over the course of a number of years, we worked on different portions of that, and then finally ended up with the prioritization plan that is
linked.
So how that started, it was the Baker administration with the community compact we've added on a few other, best practices over the course of the last 3 or 4 years that are part of that community compact. But the major one has been the process.
I can tell you that the prioritization plan is pretty difficult to find on our website because I just spent a few minutes looking for it. So we are gonna somehow work to move that to our homepage and get that out there. And to Janet's question about the comments that have been received, we have compiled everything that we've received to date. We've even gone into other social media sites, Berlin Neighbors Connect, to compile comments. So we think we've done a good job collecting all of them, and we'll continue to do that. And if the chair of this committee is okay with putting that up on the website, we'd be able to do that.
Yeah, I think we can share either share that as in format, the way you have kind of it done already, or even share a whole response to the grant, that we have to submit.
Okay. All right, so we've got Peter Hoffman. Peter, just unmute. Can you unmute? Maybe, sorry.
All right.
Peter, okay. Let's jump to Thomas Andrew. Okay, Tom.
Hey, I would just like to respond to the penultimate previous comment and say, with respect to my town government, first of all, you have no idea after 15 years of being a selectman how much one wants to purge those files from one's mind. And the second is, I speak for the people in this respect. I really do think that they're not going to know my town government. If you're relying on my town government for that, then put a bloody link in our town page that says, for detailed meeting minutes, hit this link. I looked at your calendar, and there was a story hour and something else for tonight, and there was nothing that I could touch with respect to that. And I worked until about 15 or 20 minutes before this meeting began, and I'm not stupid, and I just tried to sign on. And I've had a lot of experience in town government, and I found it inaccessible. And I think many who have less experience with these things than I do would also find it so.
Okay, now we'll try Peter.
Hi there. Sorry, I think my screen must be dirty. My apologies. Anyway, I've been known to disagree with Tom from time to time, but I must support what he's saying. Having a legacy site, Mind Town Government, and the townofberlin.com, both is just not right. And I've struggled with it, and I don't have Tom's experience, but I'm pretty IT savvy, and they should be combined, consolidated. And I think there's just got to be a way in today's 2020 world to streamline this and make it much easier for those that are less familiar to navigate. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Maybe the last would be Eric again.
Eric. Did I? Oops.
He hasn't been promoted yet.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I knew I'd mess up at some point here tonight. Wait a minute. Oh, no. All right, Eric, bear with me. Okay, Eric, you're up.
Thank you. And clearly this horse is already dead, but I'm going to kick it one more time. I am a seasoned and very active IT professional, and it was not trivial to find this meeting. If there is a reason to reconvene a committee that focuses on technology for the town, I'm available to assist with that.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. I know that's something we've talked about in the past as well.
Okay.
Right.
Tom, Andrew, I'm not sure if I didn't lower your hand or if you have something more to say.
You didn't lower my hand.
Okay, I'm on a roll now. All right.
All right.
Well, I thank you all. If we don't have any more feedback and comments, I really appreciate the time that everyone took to come to our meeting tonight and provide us feedback. Once everything is compiled for the grant response, it is something that we will make available to everyone, to anyone who wants to see all the full array of comments, everything we received from people that we've received in writing, as well as those that participated here tonight. So thank you all very much. I guess
yes, this was great. Thank you.
We have a couple other pieces of business to work through, and I guess did everyone get the copies of the minutes that Margaret emailed out? And I would we have two sets of minutes, and I would accept a motion to approve both if anyone doesn't have any comment or changes.
I'm happy to make that motion.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
All right. And I guess, do we have to do roll call votes on everything, Margaret? Or
You do have to do roll call votes on everything. Yes.
Okay, so I guess, is there any further comment on that? Well, I guess I would ask for a vote. Mary?
I
Dave?
Not voting.
Oh, no,
I'm
she's
not voting. I'll vote in. I'll vote in.
So it's
Yes.
Dave?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
And then myself, aye. So that motion carries. The last, and I sent out, there were two street sign request forms, both to deal with stop signs on Highland Street. And one is Highland at Carter. The other is Highland at Randall. And I guess, Mary, I would open up to you as you submitted both requests, if you would like to speak to those and how we move, if we can decide to move forward to the submit these to the selectmen.
Sure. Well, I spoke to it when I spoke about the project earlier, which is what I'm seeing with traffic. And I had a conversation. I don't remember if it was you, Tom, or one of the other officers at a 19 Carter Coffee where I was complaining about this, and that suggestion came up that a stop sign is a simple way to calm down traffic. And what I've observed on Highland Street, and I wrote it up in my request for stop sign, is what I call this GPS traffic, which is going at high speed. You can tell it's not people in town. It's it's cut through traffic. And when they get to the end of Highland Street where Carter makes the turn, you see vehicles going 45 at that corner, and that corner is kind of blind. There's very often cars parked right along the corner in front of the Mutti house and other places. And so requiring drivers coming off that hill to stop at a stop sign, I think would really calm things a lot in the center of, in the Carterville area. And then the request for the other stop sign up at Randall is a similar sort of thing, is to prepare the southbound traffic on coming off Berlin Road in Bolton onto Highland Street in Berlin, to the idea that they're entering a residential area, an area where there's pedestrian traffic on the road. You see it at Balance Rock Farm. There's people crossing, there's equipment crossing the road, there's all those kinds of things. So I think what we're seeing, the cut through traffic, it's a measure that I think the longtime residents of town, yet it's annoying to have a stop sign, but I think we're all aware of the traffic issues and the speed issues, the safety issues. And so that's why I put the request in.
Okay. Anyone else on the committee have any comments or questions about them?
Well, I would say, as a Highland Street resident who lives just a couple houses up from Mary, I pretty much would agree with everything she's had to say this evening about traffic. Sorry, dog. about traffic and about the increase that we've seen over the last few years, as well as the increase in speed. And with the big trucks now going up and down because of the development that's being put in, that seems to have just increased our traffic and our angry people who are not allowed to speed because there's a really big dump truck in front of them that is not speeding. And so I'm for anything that would slow down people coming down that hill right by my house on Highland Street.
And there's speeding going up the hill as well.
Oh, absolutely.
It's in both directions.
Or those strips that would take out the tires. Like.
Well, yeah. You know, one of my thoughts is that Dave ought to just not fix any potholes. You know, just let them be. That's the equivalent of a speed bump, right? But no, that's being silly. It does seem to be that the least intrusive for residents as well as people that are driving through is to the stop sign idea.
Okay. Dave, did you have any comment or anything you'd like to add?
I'm just wondering, can we do a test program? I mean, what are the legalities of actually trying to put a sign up for a month?
Well, that was one of my questions. Is it something, because I'm concerned about the design of the road as it stands, and would there need to be some other reconstruction to really make it effective? But is that something that we could look at as a pilot? I think that's something we'd have to, where we just did that in the center, could that be done with stop signs as well? And I think we might have to reach out to MassDOT to kind of see if that's something that the town could participate in. When I look at the Randall area, the road is so wide there that I think just putting a sign in is in and of itself may not be very effective without some maybe narrowing or islands or something else to really change the way the roadway is. And then as you get down to Carter, I agree it's a simple way to slow people down and stop them. But the way that intersection currently is, does it set up very well for that if Carter Street was, say, now the through street, or if it was made into a two-way stop, whatever, I think that, it does create some of another issue now with every vehicle stopping in front of some people's homes. And I think we'd have to look at the way the construction is, but we may be able, through a similar type pilot program, to use some of those barricades we have now, and to set something up to do it for a trial period. And that's something I think we should maybe ask some questions of MassDOT, before we recommended moving anything forward on a permanent basis. Because I think that might give us a better idea how it's going to work and if our roadways are set up to make it happen easily. That was just my thought.
I agree.
So.
Yeah, no objection on my part on that. And I see both of those intersections as two-way stops, the north and south on the main road. And I don't think it's necessary to have stop sign in the third direction. Okay. Sorry, I think I spoke over your hand there, Tim. I apologize.
So, I mean, I think there's merit in this. I like the idea of again, an experiment, asking MassDOT for some input. We can chase after Central Mass's traffic folks as well, just to see what their experience has been. Mary, though, are you saying, I know we're talking about traffic going uphill is problematic. It's not just down the hill. So do you see a stop sign in both directions? And if so, it would seem as though you'd have to, I mean, there's a stop sign on Carter, on Randall already as it enters Highland, or not?
There is.
Yes.
But there isn't on Carter coming into.
No, because if you don't stop, you're going to run into Moody's house. Can you visualize that, Tim, when you're coming on that part?
I can visualize that. I'm just saying that there's times when having a stop sign, even though there's a house there, may be beneficial. So people understand that they have an obligation to stop, especially if you put stop signs on the other two legs.
Yeah, Yeah, Tim, I absolutely see your point. That having driven this many times, when you approach that intersection, it's blind both up the hill and down the hill. So you really have to stop. I mean, you have to look, and there's typically cars parked right there as well. So you got to look around the cars. And those houses, those residents there don't have driveways. Some of them, they're very limited space for
Right.
off-street parking.
But
So
if we do put a stop sign on either northbound and southbound leg, it seems as though you need a stop sign on the Carter Street entering Carter as well. Just otherwise, you're saying to people, you don't have to stop. You can just go ahead.
yeah,
I would assume. So.
Yep. Yeah.
So I mean, I think there's merit in looking at this, and I think if we want to, I mean, do you want a motion to recommend some further investigation and an experiment to the selectmen? Is that what?
I'm thinking maybe do we need to do that at this point, or should we, maybe Dave and I coordinate over the next few days, reach out to MassDOT, see what is possible. Personally, having the barricades and utilizing those, and even just having one snowstorm, I may not be in favor of doing that pilot immediately, just because of what we could be up against with weather and narrowing the roads as is. That it may be something that we get a little bit more information about, and maybe put it off a couple of months until we start to get closer to spring again, when we see what our weather's like. I would just be concerned if we put it all out there, and you know, the guys did a great job plowing around the stuff, you know, as they had to, but the problems that it could create, because it's a small intersection as is right now.
Yep.
So maybe we can, yeah, Margaret?
Chief, if you and Dave are able to get MassDOT representatives or a MassDOT representative out here, I'm wondering if we might be able to coordinate something with CMRPC transportation planners and MassDOT and get them out here. And this doesn't directly address the street sign request, but I'd love for them to stand with a group of, you know, of local officials or, you know, interested parties right at Central Street, observe what's happening on Central Street with the traffic. And sure, we can feed them ideas about buttons for pedestrian, you know, beacons and things like that. Get their thoughts on what they might support as improvements. And by support, I mean fund.
And if we did get those characters to show up in town, I'd take them out to Five Corners too.
Yes.
Absolutely. I had a long discussion with a resident today about Five Corners.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's going to take a lot of planning to address that intersection in the future. All right, so why don't we do that? Why don't between Dave and I, we'll coordinate some efforts to reach out and see with our contacts if we can get an answer on whether or not we could do a pilot for stop signs like that, and then we'll come back at our next meeting and talk more about trying to move forward with something along those lines.
Okay. Next meeting date to be determined, Chief?
Yes, yeah. Let's get some information first, and then we'll look. But probably, you know, I would say next month would probably be the most.
Good. I'll need that long to do the minutes.
Okay. All right, does anyone have anything else tonight?
And
All right. Well, I would entertain a motion to adjourn then.
I move that we adjourn.
A second.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. That was a great night. I appreciate all the public comment.
Yeah.
It was very important to get that, and things went well. Thank you all.
Really informative. It was great.
Yeah.
And thank you for putting it together, Chief.
And I think we have
All
some
right.
topics for the selectmen. I don't know if they're still here to add to Coffee Talk. So because I think that's some coordination we can talk about getting more information out to the public about public meetings and other things.
Shared streets is one of the topics for Coffee Talk as well, so we could probably expand on.
Excellent. Well, thank you all very much.
All right.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
one.
everyone. And
Take
thank you,
care.
everyone, for attending. Have a great night.